Where did Caucasian people come from? Despite the popular theory, we are not the greatest evolution of mankind, and anything white in nature, for the most part, is usually something of a offset in a way. And we are not, and Caucasian people are not the biggest majority of people in the world. And it's not because we're a dying breed, it's because we never were the highest number of people. I mean, obviously, the highest number of people are actually the um, Oriental people. But 75% of the world's population is melanated. 25% of the world is so-called white or Caucasian. And you're not white unless you don't have any Indian blood in you. Native American, my bad. Um, Oriental, Hispanic, uh, so-called African American, black, whatever. If you have none of that, then I guess you could consider yourself white, which I had found nobody that doesn't have none of that in their blood somewhere. I'm not saying people don't like that don't exist. But there are three theories on this subject that I can figure out. One is mentioned in the Bible, which is called um, I can't remember what it's called for nothing. Oh, leprosy. That's what it's called. It's actually mentioned, I believe, in Leviticus, where it talks about white blotches on the skin, which, if it was, we know that this was in Hebrew communities, which were not white people. We know this for a fact because you read the Bible. Besides the fact that Adam obviously wasn't white, because the sun was stronger back then than it is now, and a white man would have burned up in the sun back then. So, and Hawa is described to be a man of copper skin color, like fine bronze. Had been in the furnace too long. They say that because he was ruddy, brownish red. They say that about most of the angels, or at least the ones that are in heaven, the cherubim and the seraphim. But leprosy, honestly, and this is just a theory that we've been, me and my friends been working on. One of my friends has been working on, my brother. Maybe a big cause of the Caucasian people, because these whitish people, or people that had white blotches, were put in colonies by themselves. And of course, they bred together, and over time, you came out with whitish people. Like myself, I got brown blotches all over me, but I'm more whitish than anything. But unless you're white as a piece of paper, you're not white. Just to bust everybody's bubble. Um, then there's another theory of a man that was called, I don't remember what the man's name was, but he took albino people, several albino people, to an island, and for 600 years bred them together and made a white race. And then took them to Mecca and released them. 1 million white albino people. And they started calling them the evil albinos because these people pretty much destroyed everything they got their hands on. Until a man named General Monk was hired to gather them all up and run them across the desert to Turkey. 1 million white albinos. Now, General Monk was an interesting story because this was several thousand years ago, and it was supposed to be a man who had a sword of light, like a lightsaber, who rode a horse with a horn on it, and his soldiers had automatic weapons. But we ran them across the desert to Turkey into the caves and stayed watch to make sure that none of them escaped. Now, the third theory is that it's alien DNA. Because, like most of the giants that were found in America, because most of the giants, especially the giant bodies that were found in America, but most of the giants in America were white with blonde hair. And alien DNA. Angels. Fallen angels. Because that's where the aliens came from. That's what they were. Still are. Is descendants of the fallen angels. Whether the bloodline, most likely the bloodline was crossed from the wives of Noah's sons, still had that pollution in them, and you had some people that before so much knowledge was lost came out certain ways. They ran away. They band together. They didn't lose the knowledge that we destroyed, our ancestors destroyed during wars, and they're still running around with a lot of stuff that we don't know. But those are basically the choices of where Caucasian people came from. And you can believe whatever you want. I personally believe that Rh negative blood is the same blood as the Greys. And it's proven that the ones like the royal family that have Rh negative blood were originally a darker color. That's why their ancestor that first took the throne, which I believe was Henry the Black. That's why he was called the Black, because he was, or dark. Just like King James was actually a dark man from Scotland, just like most people from Scotland were dark people. They're all copper colored, because Gaelic people originally were copper colored, just like the Picts. I guarantee were not painted people. They were not pulled with tattoos. They were called painted because they were dark-skinned people. And Irish and Scots probably hate me for that, but there's some actual truth in this. If you look up heritage At least 25% of all Scots and Irish have Jewish blood in them. Jewish people are not white. Despite the popular belief that Jesus was white, he was not if he ever existed. If you don't believe me, ask Billy Graham. And I know he's dead, but look up the videos. He would say, and Jesus was not a white man like me or you. Or like me, is what he said. But, and even the rabbis that are Jewish claim that at one time they were boxwood colored people. And I will actually do a different thing on Jewish people some other time, because that is a interesting story, but it's not what I'm on right at the moment. If you believe differently, have some kind of theory on it or some kind of proof, please leave it in the comments or get a hold of me. I'd love to hear any things of new proof on something. Those are the three legends and stories that I've heard of that actually make sense. As always, Hala Hawa, and may you be blessed.